Here are some tips for English teachers if you're not at your best. So by not at your best, I mean maybe you're having some like physical problem, you have a mental health issue, you're just kind of burnt out from teaching, something like that. So these are not necessarily like the last minute you're super hungover and you have to go to class at like 8 a.m. the next day. In that case, I mean, you just kind of have to power through it. But these are kind of like longer term, like you have a surgery coming up, or you're just feeling like really tired at the end of the semester, something like that. So here are some kind of like tips and tricks to kind of just get through whatever stretch that you're struggling with. So the first tip I have is if you teach the same lesson over and over and over again, is to pre-record a little bit of it. So if you do an explicit like grammar or vocabulary teaching, why not record that and then just play that for your students instead of you doing the say 5 or 10-minute lecture every single time. The other alternative is if you're teaching students say about like irregular verbs, like your regular simple past verbs, you can just look on YouTube and there are a million teachers out there who are explaining that very concept. So if you can find something that matches exactly what you're teaching, why not let another teacher kind of do the heavy lifting? And I think students appreciate a little bit of a change of pace. And maybe your students are like mine. I know mine, they get tired of hearing me talk every day by the end of the semester. So if I can let another student or another teacher talk for a little bit, my students, I think, appreciate that. The second tip I have is to set up some stations. So this is where there's little task cards set up around the classroom, and students have to move from station to station and then doing little activities, and they can write down the answers in their notebook. So maybe like unscramble a sentence, make a sentence with a vocabulary word, make up an interesting question using this word, or just something like that. So there's a million things you can do kind of depending on the age and level of your students, but you can make up little stations and then the teacher can kind of just monitor and supervise, but not be on stage the entire class. The next tip I have is small groups. So task-based learning in small groups. The teacher can act as more kind of a guide, and you can like set up an activity or set up a task-based learning project, and then students can be doing most of the work in the class, and the teacher can kind of circulate, offer feedback, offer assistance when needed, but you're not actually on the stage. Something that I like to do with my higher level students every year is to have them do a presentation. So this is kind of a nice change of pace. It's not me on stage the whole time, but it's like I just get a break for a day, and then also students really like hearing what their classmates have to say as well. So one of my most successful things is I get students to choose a current event. So something happening, it was when I was in Korea, so in Korea or anywhere around the world, and they have to say why it's important, give a little bit of a summary about it, and then give their opinion about it. And I did very short presentations, like 1 to 2 minutes per person. And it was just actually a really nice class, and students really seemed to enjoy it. I know people don't love presentations, but if it's only 1 or 2 minutes and it's a topic that they can choose, and they didn't hate it, to be honest. I think the other people in the class enjoyed listening as well. All right, the next one is to do some in-class reading or writing. So extensive reading, or just writing, maybe like journal writing for kind of working on fluency, that kind of thing. So setting up an activity like that kind of every day is a nice way to kind of take the pressure off of the teacher a little bit. Another idea for when you're not at your best is to make classes as student-centered as possible. So by this, I mean the teacher is not on the stage, but use all the activities that you can that students were working individually or in pairs, in small groups, that kind of thing. And the teacher is just kind of eliciting a few answers here and there. But the students are doing most of the hard work in groups together. All right, the final idea I have for when you're not at your best is to pay attention to self-care. I remember my first year in Korea, I was excited about I was in a new country, and I wasn't really in the mindset that I was actually working at a job. I felt like I was on this kind of like paid vacation. However, I wasn't on a paid vacation. I was teaching for lots of hours in a hagwon, and I was tired. However, on the weekend, I would go hard. I'd go travel around Korea, I'd take these long bus trips, I would do all these things, I would drink a lot. And by the time Monday rolled around, I was exhausted. So if you're not at your best, spend some time just, hanging out at home. Don't drink all the time. Get some exercise, eat some healthy food, and hopefully you can feel better for class on Monday when it comes around. Okay, so those are all my tips for what to do when you're trying to teach, but you're not at your best. Please be sure to check out my book, ESL, EFL Teaching Practice and Methodology. Catch you next time. Bye, everybody.